Like people are piling in. So, hello again, everybody. Welcome to the first in our monthly series of live demos. We will be showcasing new apps, new capabilities, new technical fun in these and more in our time. Short to the point, dig deep into the things that are interesting to you. Today, we are excited to show you the new Talk to My Data Agentic app. I have Lucas here with me. He is one of our principal data science engineers, going to show you all of the exciting features. Before we do that, before we dive in, I do have a couple of pieces of housekeeping for you. One, this will be recorded. That is for us to be able to send to you, for us to be able to share, so you can go back and revisit. And we encourage Q&A. Please use the chat for that. We can take all of your questions. We will answer them at the end. Definitely want this to have that interactive feel. So please do feel free to ask any questions that you have as Lucas goes through his demo. With that, I am going to turn it over to Lucas for Talk to My Data.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. And yes, hello and welcome. Today I want to show you, as Rebecca said, the Talk to My Data app. We call it a template, and I will go into the details of what that means. I myself, with DataRobot for 7 years, have worked in various areas and am now working on these sort of more strategic areas of our platform. So with that out of the way, let me share my screen, and I hope you can all see that. Maybe Rebecca can give me a thumbs up once it is coming up. Perfect. Okay, so Talk to My Data Agent. I am here on one of our DataRobot community GitHub pages, and we can see github.com DataRobot community / Talk to My Data Agent. You will all be able to access this. It's open source. And if I just scroll down here, we can see what we might expect to see in this session today. So Talk to My Data. It delivers a seamless talk to your data experience. And we have a little demo here, but I'm going to show this in more detail. And what this is high level, what we're trying to achieve here is we want to give you a very quick to set up application where you can add your own data and then have a chat with it. And not only that, we want to ask our LLM, our Gen AI model, to perform some analyses on this data, to perform a business analysis, to answer our business-related questions, and also to visualize the output of that. So we will go through the table of contents. I want to show you how we actually get set up with this. And I will also show you how to make changes to this, because that is, I think, the main benefit of using these templates. It's not only to get something up and running very, very quickly, but also to then go in there and make changes. So we want to be as transparent as possible here. We want to give you all of the tools, all of the power to, go actually inside the code base, make those changes. So we spend a lot of time on making it sort of clear, modular, separated, etc. But you will be the judge of that. So let me quickly just show you high level how this works, right? So I have one of these applications up and running here. So what I can do is I can upload some data. I already uploaded some data here. I might find another data set that I can add here. Let's take this time series data, just drop it in. You can also connect this, by the way, to our DataRobot catalog, the data catalog that we have inside the DataRobot platform. I can also hook it up to a database, such as Snowflake or BigQuery or SAP DataSphere, so that you can run a SQL query directly on the data in your database. But whenever we upload a data set, what happens is we give this data set to an LLM. We first perform a little bit of data cleansing. We do we then try to come up with some summary statistics of that data. And then we present that to our LLM and ask it to give us a data dictionary. So for example, here in this data set, we see various columns. And if I go to the data dictionary, I see for each column, a description has been generated. So this description has been generated based on the actual data that we see inside. We ask the LLM to give us a little bit of that. And that, of course, is to help further analysis steps again, right? So when I'm now going to ask a question about this data, we then also present this data dictionary to the LLM so it knows a little bit more what is going on. And then, of course, here, this is the data set that I just uploaded, some time series data, and I can see again the data dictionary. So with that data uploaded, I can now go and have a little chat with my data. Oh, there's something already coming up, so let me just open a new chat. And I can now ask a question, for example, about my sales. So I don't know, show me the sales of my stores time, let's say. And the LLM is now, of course, the task is going to be find the correct data set based on the descriptions and then perform the analyses, at which here in this case, we're going to run Python code on the data set, which is stored as a pandas data frame behind the scenes. And then we also ask it to generate some charts for us. And we can see there's a local mode. There's also the Snowflake mode. So if I wanted to, I can connect to a Snowflake database, in which case we don't run Python, we run SQL. So we can sort of switch between these modes, the local mode and the run SQL on the database directly mode. Okay, so that's going to take some time. It needs to understand, and the part of the magic here, and I'm going to go a little bit into detail on that as well, is we're not only asking the question once to our LLM, we make sure that the LLM actually gave us code that can actually run, and it did understand the question correctly. So there's a lot of inflection happening behind the scenes here, so that the LLM, some LLMs are better than others at generating Python code, right? As we all know, some are really bad at it, some are excellent at it. And we have a retry logic built in here to make sure that, you know, if it messes it up, we get the correct code out. So here we go. We see now the code has been generated. The analysis result comes up. So this is the output data set. And the code, I can quickly have a look at this. So this is what the LLM has generated for us now. So it says, okay, let's group our sales by the store and the date, and rename some columns apparently, and then it returns that to us. And the next steps are going to be answering my actual question here of showing us a plot of all of that. So here we go. Okay, nice. There's my total sales over time. That looks pretty good. And it even broke it down by stores. And it gives me some insights. And it even suggests some follow-up questions, right? So I could now go from here, continue the conversation. I can also load up a previous conversation I had with another data set. And yeah, you see the point, right? So how do we get started with this? Let's go back to our GitHub repo. And we're just going to follow the setup here. I want to show you it's actually fairly easy to get this set up. And then I want to go a little bit into the behind the scenes for you to see what actually happens. So firstly, I need to ensure that I have Pulumi installed. Pulumi is a tool that we're using. It's a third party. You may have heard of Pulumi. If not, it's like Terraform. If you haven't heard of Terraform, it's an infrastructure as code sort of helper that we can use to say, rather than saying, I want, you know, these steps executed in exactly that way, it's a declarative API. So you just say what you want to have, and then Pulumi knows how to create each individual thing that we asked for. In this case, resources that are created inside the DataRobot platform. But Pulumi also supports other things like, you know, the various cloud providers, Azure, AWS, and many, many more, right? But yeah, basically Pulumi is the API sort of that we're using, the framework that we're using to put everything into place to set up the infrastructure. So we need Pulumi installed. There's a link here. You can just install it. Let me just double check that I have that. And I do, perfect. So here we go, Pulumi is installed. That's what I need there. I also need Python installed. We didn't actually call that out here, I think, but it's another one. And then I'm going to clone this repository. So I will just take that link here and clone that. And now I can go into that directory, and I'm going to, I'm going to start a VS Code instance in that. So here we go. These are all of the files that we just cloned. That is all of the things that we just got. But I will go back in here and find, now what's the next step? Rename the file .env.template to .env and populate your credentials. So let's do that. So let me just find the correct one. Here we go. No, hang on, this is not the correct one. Sorry. Is it though? No, this is not. Apologies. I have two of those open. So, go. Now, this is nice and empty. Okay, perfect. So I find the file .env.template, and I'm being asked to make a copy of that. So let's do that. Copy and paste. Was it? There we go. And then we're going to rename that to .env. So in here we see now there's a bunch of credentials that we're being asked to populate. We don't have to populate everything. So at the beginning I can say, okay, I definitely need my DataRobot API token, and I need the DataRobot endpoint. And then if I want to use Azure OpenAI to give me the access to the LLM, I need to provide that. There's also options to use Google Vertex AI. You can use AWS Bedrock, or you bring your own LLM. So these are all supported options for this. For simplicity, I will go for the Azure OpenAI credential now. So I'm going to quickly populate these credentials here. And before you think of stealing those, I will rotate them just after this call, but I don't want to hide the API keys here. So I will just quickly copy them in, and after the call, I'm going to rotate. So here we go. Copy that and paste it in. Perfect. Okay, so with that, I'm finished here. Let's quickly hide that. And go back to our README. So what did we do? We filled in our DataRobot API token and endpoint. We filled in the OpenAI API key, and the Pulumi config passphrase is already populated. So now the next step is going to be, in a terminal, run Python quick start your project name. So that's, which one is it? This one here. No, sorry, this one here. So let's open up a terminal. And we're going to say Python quick start. And I'm going to tell it, call it my demo. So to my data. So what is Python? What is this quick start program going to do? It sets up a Python virtual environment for us. We could do that manually, but it's a shortcut. It then sets up one of those Pulumi stacks for us. So in Pulumi, everything is organized into stacks, which basically holds all of the different resources that are going to be created now for us. And then it runs everything for us. So if I make this a bit larger here, we can see what is going on. So Python requirements are being installed, and then we will see what is happening. You can see we're using UV. It's a Python sort of package manager, which I can definitely recommend using. It is roughly 100 times faster than standard pip. I just love to see it. It's much easier to use. So let's give that some time here to install everything, and we should see what are the next steps. Right. So the other thing I will go into now is what we will see now is which resources inside the DataRobot platform are being created. And I want to show you where we can actually find that inside our code base and how to make changes to that as well. But yeah, first let's give that here a little bit of time so we can see it. Taking 1 minute longer than I was hoping to. Well, maybe we just move on for now and give that here time to think. So in our directory structure inside our project, what we see is we have a few different folders here. And this is what I was referring to earlier about the sort of modular aspect of Talk to My Data. And everything that has to do with infrastructure, we find under this infra folder here. So in here, we see all the logic that is required to set this up and to put everything into place. There we go. I think finally it was happy to do it. Perfect. So this is what I was hoping to see, right? So this is the stack that is being created. And what you can see here is we are creating various assets inside the DataRobot platform, things we call LLM blueprint, custom models, playground, use case, credentials, prediction environments, applications, etc. So each of these are required to get our application up and running. The application alone is not the whole story. We also need a way to call our LLM. We need the LLM itself set up. We need those credentials put into place. So all of this, these different steps, you could do them manually, but this here puts it all together into a stack, and then we ramp it all up in a single go, and we can now see how these assets are being created. So what actually happens here is a Pulumi program is being executed, and for that I can go into this Python script, main.py, and if I make that a bit larger, we see this here is the main logic that is being executed. So you can see we are using this library called Pulumi DataRobot, and with that we're saying here, okay, give me a use case inside the DataRobot platform. To quickly demonstrate that, I can jump into the platform and find this use case that is currently being created. And here we go, right? This is the demo Talk to My Data project that I just set up. I can see there is a so-called playground in which we will see our LLM. There we go, there it is, right? So the LLM has been set up. We are using GPT-4o here by default. And I can now start asking questions here, right? But we are going to use this LLM then in order to deploy it and also deploy the application next to it. So just to demonstrate these things here, the different assets or resources we are creating here, they're then reflected inside the DataRobot platform. Right? And we're then going to say, okay, we need this LLM deployed, we need a credential, we need the application, right? So all of this is set up here. And if I want to go and make any changes to this, it's sort of self-documenting. So just as an example, if I go into my generative settings here, so I need to make sure that my environment is correctly enabled here. Perfect. So if I wanted to say, let's switch the large language model that we're using from GPT-4o to something else. Let's say, Anthropic's, Claude, or Google's models, etc. Right? So I can do that here. And that would then be reflected once I trigger an update to my Pulumi stack, right? So we need to, the Pulumi stack has been created here, right? And after this is finished, I can then say Pulumi up. It has a look at what is the difference between what I specified in my code base to what is actually currently deployed inside the DataRobot platform. And then it runs an update against that. Alrighty, so This is all going to, it's going to take a few more minutes. We don't need to wait for all of this to happen. I just wanted to quickly go through a few more details here. So the infra, that is all about infrastructure. That is all about how to set up the various resources that we need in order to get our application up and running. But we can also see there's a front-end folder here. And the application itself that we just seen is a Streamlit app, right? So we can see here, this is the Streamlit app as it's running inside our platform. And if I wanted to, I could also run this locally. I can then make changes locally. If I'm happy with my changes, I will deploy it again, right? So that's the beauty of it. It's very easy to quickly iterate, make the changes locally, and then deploy it to where you need it again. I'm not going to go into the actual logic of Streamlit. You can find that yourself. Last but not least, we also have this utils folder, and this is where the main logic happens. So just as an example here, I want to show you how this works in the background. Let's say we are asking our LLM to provide to us a data dictionary, right? So the explanations of our data set that we uploaded. I can find that here. Data dictionary. No, hang on. I just need to find the correct function here. There's quite a lot of functions. It's just question get dictionary. There we go, right? So we have this get dictionary function here. The way this works is we take the data set, comes in, we then create this, sample it, we create some summary statistics, then we batch it, and by columns, right? And we just send 5 columns at a time to our LLM. And we then prepare the request to our LLM. So this here should look familiar to anyone who has done anything with OpenAI or LLMs, right? So we have this chat completion parameters. That's all using the sort of standard OpenAI terminology, where we have a prompt, we give the sample data, summaries, etc. And then we send it off to our LLM client. But here's so we're using a library called Instructor. And Instructor's library is a very clever one. You can provide a Pydantic base model. So just have a look at that here, the dictionary generation model. If I look at that, it's very simple, right? So I'm going to say, I want columns, it's a list of strings, and I want descriptions, a list of strings. And then I'm going to ask my LLM, please give me something that looks like a list of strings and a list of strings, right? And this will then, like this instructor client here, will then ensure that it actually does look like it, right? And if it doesn't, it asks again and again and again. Right, so that is the behind the scenes. Now I want to quickly give you a very quick sneak preview on how can we change the LLM. So I'm in a finished project here. So if I quickly go Pulumi stack, I see it is there's stack information here, right? And what we can do is we can, in our .env.templates, we see there's a little bit of logic in here, which says, if I want to use an existing text gen model, then I can also provide these, text gen registered model ID or text gen deployment ID, and then use that instead of the sort of built-in LLM that we used now. And going into my DataRobot platform, I actually have one here, which is basically an Anthropic wrapper. So I'm calling Anthropic directly from this model that I deployed. So inside is just a call to Anthropic, to Anthropic's API. So this is something I can very quickly set up inside DataRobot, get myself a deployment. And if I want to use that, all I would have to do is set the deployment ID in here. I'm not going to run it now because I think I'm running out of time, unfortunately. But basically what I would have to do is I say, give me, apologies, there's this Zoom thing in the way. Give me that deployment ID with that Anthropic wrapper running. And I just copy paste that in here. comment that out. And then I need to do one last change, which is switch in my settings generative. I switch this LLM to, say, deployed LLM. And with that, I'm now ready to set up this sort of provided LLM that I just created. And I did deploy that earlier as well. It's going to be slightly invisible because the app looks exactly the same. But this here is basically using the Anthropic. It's Sonnet 3.7 in the backend. The code normally is a lot more verbose than what you get from GPT-4o. So this is sort of how you can tell the difference, comparing this here to this here, right? And normally the output is a little bit more intricate. It shows us more details. It's just how different LLMs behave to each other, right? But yeah, so unfortunately, I couldn't go into the actual setting up. You got the high level, but I do have to, I think, take a break here and open it up for questions.
Thank you, Lucas. Maybe we need a part 2. We can keep going. Gotta dive into the next pieces. So we did have a couple of questions that came through, mostly logistical things I can answer, but yes, this was recorded. Recordings will be posted and sent out. So if you missed the beginning or any part of this wonderful demo, we will be sending those your way. The question was asked whether or not it is necessary to have the Gen AI offering from DataRobot in order to deploy Talk to My Data. My understanding is the answer to that is yes.
My understanding is the answer to that is possibly not. If you don't want to use the built-in LLM functionality. So you would basically have to go with the external text gen model, the thing that I showed at the very, very end, right? So you deploy your own sort of proxy or wrapper around a call to, let's say, OpenAI or Anthropic or wherever. And then you would be able to put that in, but I'm not 100% on that, to be honest.
If you have questions around the Gen AI, Talk to My Data, all of those pieces, you can reach out to us. If you want to learn more, also please reach out. We have links that are going to go into the chat here. You can learn more at datarobot.com. Request your own personalized demo. We can show you more in depth. Reach out to your customer success or to us if you are not yet a customer. We hope you will be. And with any questions, you will be receiving all of this information again by email through recording and some additional resources. With that, I will thank you very much, Lucas, for the time. Thank you all for joining us and taking time out of your day. And we will talk to you next time.
Thank you very much.